welcome to the Benny Talk today. We are very happy that you are joining us. If it's your very first time, please feel free to subscribe to the Benny Talk YouTube channel. And if you've always watched us, you are very welcome. It's because of you that we are here. So thank you so much for sparing your time. And today we have a very special guest, Carol K. Achak, who is a lawyer, a qualified lawyer, and we are going to talk about something really important that you don't want to miss. We are going to talk about the steps that you need to take or the things that you need to know before buying land in Uganda. So there are so many scammers here and there, and personally I've been a victim in 2022, and it's not really a nice thing to be scammed. So today we need to know the steps that need to be taken before you buy land in Uganda. And Kay, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Benny.
So what are those things that we need to consider before, deciding to bring the money out?
Okay. Now, there are many things that need to be considered before buying land in Uganda.
Okay.
But I'll focus on the basics today.
Okay.
So the first step is that you should know the kind of land you're going to buy. In Uganda, according to our constitution, we have 4 different tenures of land. Then we have, when I talk about tenures, I mean categories of land. The first is the Milo land.
Okay.
If you recall the 1900 Uganda Agreement, this was land that was distributed in miles by the British, and it was mainly to the Uganda Kingdom and some regions. So when it comes to Milo land, we have private Milo and public Milo.
Okay.
Now that is one category of land, and it is registered land. It's mainly found in the Uganda region. The second tenure of land or category of land is the freehold. And freehold land is also registered land, meaning you can be able to get a title for that freehold land. And this freehold land is what is held in perpetuity. What they call, you hold it forever.
Forever.
Yeah, you don't just lose your right to it anyhow. Once you have freehold land, it is yours until you decide to sell it out or something of that nature. The third tenure of land, we have the leasehold. Now, leasehold is also land that is registered, and it can be carved out from Milo, freehold. Sometimes even the fourth category of land is customary. You can have a lease. That one. So when it comes to leasehold, it's normally held for periods of 5 years, 49 years, or 99 years.
Okay.
And this is the only kind of land that a non-Ugandan is permitted to own.
Oh.
So if you're non-Ugandan, you cannot own land that is Milo, freehold, or customary. The best you can go for is leasehold.
Okay.
And this is provided for under the Land Act when it talks about land that a foreigner can own in Uganda.
Yeah.
Now, the last category of land is customary land. This is land that is normally held customarily, let me say, by clans or by families, but under a custom, under customs of that, of the people owning it. And this is mainly, it's a major form of land in Uganda, and it's mainly for upcountry areas. Let's say, if you're in Kampala, no.
Okay.
So, mainly in Kampala, we have Milo land, then we have freehold, then we have leasehold. Now, when it comes to buying land, the kind of land you're going to buy determines the steps you should take before purchasing that land. If you're going to buy Milo land or freehold land, it's best to carry out a search at the land registry where that land is located. That search will show you who owns that land at the moment and probably the size of the land. So that when you're buying it, probably if Musoke is the person selling to me this land, Musoke's name should appear on the title, if he's claiming to be the owner.
Okay.
In case the name on the title is Namokasa, and yet the person buying the land, selling you the land, is Musoke, you have to query. That's a red flag. So you have to find out further as to why the person selling to you that land is not the person whose name appears on the title. That is when it comes to carrying out a search on the registry. The second is carrying out a search, physical search on the land. Don't just stop at the registry. Go to where that land is located. Find out, are there people on that land?
True.
Because much as we have Milo land and freehold land, we have people who are on that land. They are permitted to be on that land by the original owners of that land.
True.
So these are many, you see, Viwanja holders. So they have a right, what they call equitable rights. They don't have legal rights, as it says, like when it comes to ownership, but these are equitable rights in that if there is any talk of selling that land first goes to them.
True.
So if you go on the land and you find people living on the land who are different from the people selling to that land, you have to query and ask them, okay, to what extent do you own this land?
Yes.
How did you get to own this land? Are you okay with it being sold? That saves you from conflict later. When someone else is claiming you bought the land and it's theirs, and losing your money
and chasing them as well.
Yes.
When you buy it.
Yes. So also when you go to the land, you have to talk to the neighbors.
True.
Where are the boundaries of the land? If someone is telling you the land starts from this tree to that tree over there, and yet the neighbor on that side is claiming no, that land stops inside there, that is also a red flag. So you have to find out from the neighbors.
True.
Neighbors, where does this land stop? What has been the history of this land?
Exactly.
Have they been selling it in this particular way, or are there any issues concerning that land?
True.
So that is it. Then also talk to the LC1 of the area, because they normally have knowledge on who. They know there are people in that land.
True.
And in fact, even later when you're going to, have a sales agreement, it's best to have these people around the land
witnessing that you are actually now the new owner.
And they're okay with it. So later they don't come and claim that I wasn't aware when this person was purchasing this land. Another thing that when you're buying land, go with a surveyor. A surveyor will help you know the size of the land. The person selling to you the land may tell you this land is probably 2 acres.
Okay.
Let's say 12 acres or whichever number they will give you. But the surveyor, a registered surveyor, will tell you the exact size of that land. Yeah. So that you're able to know what you're buying.
True.
And if at all that acreage tallies with what is on the title.
True.
Yeah. So you have to get a registered surveyor
True.
to help you with that. Another point to note is that when it comes to land, some of the land is matrimonial land. This is land where there's a married couple and they use this land for sustenance or to earn a living, and then you find one of the spouse wants to sell that land.
Okay.
There is need for spousal consent.
Wow.
If you buy land from a man who is married and there is no consent from
the
wife, later she can come and say she didn't give her consent as provided for in the Land Act.
True.
And so you end up losing your money.
True.
It goes to court.
Yeah.
And if it shows indeed you did not carry out your due diligence.
True.
Now that comes to matrimonial property.
Wow.
Now there's also land whereby the original owner passed away, is deceased. And so now the land is in the hands of administrators.
Okay.
Now these administrators hold this land in trust. They hold this land in trust for the beneficiaries. Now, in case there's going to be sale of land, there is need to consult all the beneficiaries. For example, if Mr. Okelo died, and he left beneficiaries over 8 children, and then he also left administrators to help administer the estate, and their names are appearing on the title as administrators. If they want to sell that land,
all of them have to consent.
Yes, they have to consent, because if later some of the beneficiaries come and say, we are not consenting.
True.
We were not consulted. We didn't consent. Then that is a problem for you who is purchasing.
Yeah.
So look at the kind of land you buy and then carry out the due diligence accordingly. Now, another aspect is confirming identity of the vendor. The vendor is the seller.
Okay.
As well as the purchaser. No? There have been cases where scammers now go, they come up with IDs, come up with the TIN numbers. They just get your ID and then they claim. They don't have enough passport size photo there, and then they claim. They impersonate the real owners.
True.
So you have to just don't.
That's what happens to me.
Sorry about that. But you see, don't accept that as gospel truth, because scammers are smarter by the day.
Very.
So you also have to get smarter.
Guy came with a land title. I was like, okay, this is okay. Though I was not buying land, I was just renting. So still, it's the same. The scammers are all over.
Yeah. And you end up losing money.
True.
It's hard-earned money. So you have to ascertain the identity of the vendor.
Yeah.
It's the seller as well as the purchaser.
Yeah.
So go a step further, look for the passport size photos, the ones at the registry, the ID, the TIN number. Is it matching with that of the person trying to sell it to you or the person on the title? So these are things you have to look into.
Yeah.
Then also, sometimes you're going to find that you're going to buy land, and this is maybe in a reserve. There are restrictions on land. You may on wetlands, in reserves. So you have to find out on ground, where is this land located? Is there going to be an access road here? Is there going to be a public way here in future? So these are things you have to find out from the physical planning committee of that area, the district. What are the plans for this area?
True.
So you have to find out that. Then also the utilities. Maybe you want the land for a particular purpose. Is it probably for farming? Utilities, access to water, power. How close is it? So that is why it's necessary to go on ground and study, so that you don't end up buying what you didn't intend to buy.
True.
And then also, are there taxes, that have to be paid regarding that land?
Yeah.
Is there a mortgage? Sometimes you buy land and then someone else already gave it as a loan somewhere else. So you're going to buy this land and yet you find you actually can't really own it until the loan is cleared.
Wow.
So these are things you find out when you carry out the search.
Yeah.
Then sometimes the land that you buy is from the person selling the land might be an illiterate. They don't know how to read or write.
Okay.
But they own the land and they want to sell it. So there's what we call the Illiterate Persons Act, whereby there is need to translate for that person before buying land, so that they don't claim later, I sold my land and then I wasn't aware what I was selling. No, they didn't translate to me. So you make sure that the documents attaching, there is proof that there was a certificate of translation for that person, and they understood in the language that they understood.
They understood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they signed off
Wow.
to have that land sold off. Also, there's what we call all transactions concerning that land.
Okay.
It's best to have it in writing because you have a paper trail. In case later someone comes and says, you didn't give me this, didn't give me that.
Okay.
There is proof that actually they received that. So whatever it is, don't just give out your hard-earned money without
recording all the
Yes.
steps that you've taken into.
Yes. Then probably the last I could talk about for now is do not leave the land unattended. Once you purchase the land, have
At
a
least
plan.
make use of.
Take on possession, because you leave your land there, before you know it, someone else comes and is claiming ownership on that land.
True.
So try as much as possible to see that as soon as you purchase that land, you have someone take possession of it. Yes. And then also when it comes to land, mainly the registered land, see that there's a transfer form.
True.
So that's when you want to change the land into your names, like the have the land title into your names. There's already the transfer form, and you don't have to look for the vendor later when you cannot find them.
True.
But lastly,
Lastly.
at the end of the day, most people say consulting a lawyer is very expensive.
Yeah.
And they want to do it on their own. But a lawyer will look at some details concerning that land and guide you accordingly.
True.
Eventually, it is cheaper to have them handle the transaction at the beginning than later when you're fighting.
To get it back. Yeah.
So if possible, consult a lawyer of your choice, a lawyer that you trust, and they take you through the different needs concerning the land that you want to purchase to avoid you being scammed.
Yeah.
And maybe just a short story. There's land sometime, as a client of mine in northern Uganda wanted to buy this land and wasn't around. So he asked me to go and help. Yes, help with the transaction.
Okay.
Now this land was across a river. So the thing is that the people selling the land came on this other side of the river. I know even me, I was scared to cross the river. I'm like, what happens in case the boat decides to drown? Then the thought was appealing. Don't just go. Yes, everything seems to have been covered. But then the people are insisting, no, everything is done. Just don't need to go see the land. But a thought came to us and said, no, we can't have travel from Kampala all the way.
Then you don't see
Yeah,
that
to the land.
thing you want to.
Let us go.
Mm.
So we had to take that. I mean, be strong, get into the boat and cross the river. Now, when we reached there, we were still mesmerized by the land. The soil was lovely, black soil, good for farming and what.
Nice.
Moving around, then all of a sudden, this other group of people came, about 3-4 boys, youth, and are saying, is it allowed to purchase land, yet there are rumbles over it? And then so I asked myself, what do you mean? Because the people who are selling the land were not, they're saying, no, don't listen to them, it's not necessary.
True, yeah.
We are the ones in charge. But I say, let me listen to them, because I don't want my client to end up buying land and inheriting land wrangles.
True.
Because sometimes people have been fighting so much as family. They say, if I can sell my share, the other person will be the one to deal with.
True. Wow.
So I didn't want my client to be the one dealing with that.
Dealing with long-term issues.
Yes, you put your cows there and they're poisoned. Plant your crops and they're burnt, So I asked that these people sit down together and then arrive at an amicable agreement concerning that land before we could come back. Eventually, sadly, they failed to
agree.
Agree.
Wow.
And that's how my client lost that land. I advised him, he had to make the choice.
True.
This is
either you go with the whole risk or you
wait for land that is clean. And eventually he, of course, let go of the land.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
I hope later, got another one.
He did. Okay. But that land was very good, very fertile. True. But the wrangles that would come with it later would not be worth it.
True.
Of course, So that is it for now.
Wow. There's so many people who need to hear what you've just said. And to those who are watching, if you've got any question, feel free to drop in the comments, or you're going to send us a message on the Gmail account that's going to be right below the screen, and ask as many questions as you can, because we still have Kay around. I hope you'll be available to respond to the different questions, because this is a lot of information and very important information that we all need. Thank you so much for sparing your time. I hope that it's not going to be the last time you're visiting the Benny Talk, because there's a lot to learn from you. There's really a lot, and so many questions that we still maybe we can ask. And so thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for joining the Benny Talk today. We are really happy that you've watched the podcast from beginning to end. Wow, thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.